What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jared Williams Show. Today we got another guest on because Joel's out washing. We got Tristan Mitten on the podcast today. What's up, man? Welcome.
What's up, man? Excited to be here.
Yeah, super dope. So you own a pool company, I don't even know. You own a pool repair company, but you also clean and maintenance pools, yeah?
Yeah. So we do, I'd say like majority of our revenue is repairs. And then on top of that, we do cleanings. And then thirdly, we do remodels. So we're kind of like 3-in-1.
When you say remodel, what does that mean?
So remodel. So we do, so for example, most pools have pebble tech or plaster. They have tile. They have cool decking. There's a lot of pools, especially in Phoenix, that's where we're located at, where you have pools that are 50, 60 years old. So all these pools, they have to get resurfaced every 20, 30 years.
Like the inside of the pool where the water sits?
The inside of the pool, correct. Because you have the shotcrete and then you have rebar shotcrete. And then on top of that, you have pebble tech / plaster.
Cool.
So the reason we started doing remodels, because it was predominantly repairs and service.
Yeah.
The main reason was just because we were in front of all these customers that we were repairing their equipment, we were cleaning their pool, and their pool needed to be remodeled.
Yeah.
So we get all these customers like every week ask us, hey, do you guys do remodels? And we were just pawning off the business to somebody else.
Yeah.
So we basically just have like a subcontractor in place that we send the work to.
Yeah.
And then they just give us kickback. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like it. So we'll get into your story, but are all the pools like, because I have a pool. I've only owned one home with a pool. It's the pool I have now. And it's got like a rubber lining on the inside. Is that like the worst?
Is it above ground?
No, it's
it's in ground.
It's in ground.
Is it a vinyl?
It must be, yeah. Because I can see like a seam.
Got it. Yeah. So it's a vinyl pool, but
yeah,
no, it's not a bad pool. It's how would I say it? It's the easier pool to install.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there's still a lot of things you can do with the vinyl pool.
Cool. I have a pool guy too, and I hope they watch this because they're terrible. They're awful.
Most pool guys are terrible.
Dude, they will literally, so they're supposed to be caring for my pool. And right now my pool is green. And
how often do they come?
They come every week. And the thing is, it's been green for like 4 weeks. And I'm like, I wonder if they're going to do anything about that. Luckily, I don't ever swim in it. So it's just kind of just green right now.
The kids swimming in swamp goop.
Yeah, nobody really seems to care except for myself. And so
yeah,
my pool guys, they'll literally come. They're supposed to be there every Tuesday. They will literally not show up, and they will send us a picture of somebody else's pool that they maintained. And I'm like,
so that's literally like the exact reason why we started a pool company.
Yeah,
it's the same thing in Phoenix.
Yeah, just bad business practices. Yeah, just like every other home service industry.
100%.
Yep.
Well, especially with pools, because plumbing you have to, and it depends on the state, but you have to have so many years of experience.
Yeah.
Licensing, you still have to be licensed in pools. But for example, like the company itself just has to have the license. And then we can hire anybody we want to and then train them, and then they can operate under the license.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
But 80-90% of the guys, you see a pool pole in their back of their truck, they're a pool guy.
Yeah.
And they're not licensed.
Right.
80-90% of them.
Yep. So tell us how did you get started in pools, but go back before that? Like, how did you end up in Phoenix? Did you grow up there? And then tell us how you got to now you own a pool company.
Yeah. So born and raised in Phoenix. So I was just native. There's not many native Phoenix people that live in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But born and raised there. I was the oldest of 5 kids growing up. So my dad, upper middle class, like my dad was pretty successful, financial advisor, owned his own firm and everything.
Cool.
But from like a young age, he was always super, super hard on me. And it kind of taught me he really taught me how to like work hard and learn how to manage money and kind of run a business in a sense, because I kind of watched him do it for so many years. But basically I graduated high school. I went on a mission for I'm LDS for the LDS church.
Gotcha.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was only out there for about 2 months. And like in the LDS church, you're kind of grown up to like, this is what you're expected to do type of thing. And so you serve for 2 years as a young man is what you call it. But you're supposed to serve for 2 years. And so when I came home early, because in the church, in order to be on a mission, you have to be worthy. There's a whole list of things you have to be in order to be out there.
Gotcha.
And so I came home early, and it was like probably at that point in time in my life and my young life where I didn't have much experience with much. It was really hard. It was really hard on me. I didn't really know what to do. I was depressed for probably like 3-4 months. It was kind of like an identity thing where I didn't know, I didn't have direction in my life. And so from that point, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, whether it was, do what my dad did. I had some buddies that were going into door-to-door sales, start a business. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so my buddies that had done the door-to-door, I was like, I was kind of just thinking, hey, let me go out with some of my buddies and knock doors and make some money.
Yep.
Learn how to sell, learn how to communicate.
Yep.
And so it was actually my cousin at the time, and me and some buddies, he basically recruited me to go out and knock doors for the summer. And so from that point on, basically day one, they dropped me off with a binder and a badge in a trailer park. And they were like, knock doors until the sun comes down, and then let us know how you did.
And what are you selling?
Well, we were selling satellite. So we were selling direct TV.
To trailer park people?
They were just the easiest people to sell.
I got you. The people with the least amount of money were the easiest people to sell.
Because the whole pitch was we're going to save people money.
Yeah.
And so that was, hey, we can switch your TV provider and save you
Gotcha.
$20 a month. Right.
Gotcha.
But that was where, in that first day, like they dropped me off, and by the end of the day, it was dark, and I probably knocked like 500 doors. And I had 4 sales and like $1,000 in my pocket.
Nice.
And I was like hooked.
Nice.
I was stoked.
How long does it take to knock 500 doors?
At least 12 hours.
Nice.
12 hours.
I have yet to this day to door knock. Never done it.
If you're in the position where you don't have like capital,
Yeah.
like looking back, it's the best thing for a young kid to do, because you can learn.
Oh, yeah.
In your case, like in your example, would be starting your plumbing company, talking to customers every day.
Yeah.
So that's the equivalent.
I could totally see that. Like just in even learning to deal with rejection.
Right.
Because you're going to get rejected way more than you get somebody to be like, yeah, come in my house and fix this for me.
Right.
I can imagine. Like you knocked on 500 doors and had 4 sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, basically from that point, went on, and it was a summer gig. So we would go out. It's funny, driving here reminded me, because we would go, for the summertime, we would go to the Midwest. So we go to Missouri, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Minnesota. So driving here was just like all the towns we would knock. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But basically 4 years later, backtrack. That first year, I was the rookie of the year in the company.
Cool.
Out of a few hundred reps. And so from that point on, I really kind of developed a passion for sales. And so from that point, 4 years later, that's how long I knocked doors, was for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I go to college for 2 semesters, and then I would leave for 4 months, to go out and knock doors and make money.
So did you finish college?
Funny story. So I still have like 12 credit hours.
Nice. Dope.
I was
That's 12 more than I got. So
yeah, we call it the golden handcuffs, to where you're making good money in sales.
Yeah.
So you're like, in my mind, and this is a lot of guys at the time who go to college.
Yeah.
I know guys that went to college that knocked doors that were going to college to be a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah. And they just dropped it because they were making so much money doing sales.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, basically finished that out. At that 4th year, I knew, and I was married. That year 3, I got married to my wife. And I knew I needed to do something more stable.
Yeah.
Because I know we wanted to start a family. And so moving to the Midwest for 4 to 5 months just wasn't doable.
Right. Yep.
So that fourth year I knew, and this is kind of when I started, listening to business podcasts, reading books.
Yep.
And I think anybody who starts a business, that's how they kind of get, hooked.
Yep.
Is they start reading and they start seeing all these guys and their lifestyle and
Yeah.
whatnot.
They start seeing the dream.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, that's kind of what got me hooked. And so that fourth year, I was kind of game planning on what kind of business I wanted to start. And at the time, like this is when like drop shipping was a big thing.
Yep.
There's all these fads and these different industries popping up for, get rich quick and all these different industries. And so I basically, from that fourth year, when I kid you not, within 2 years, I probably started and closed like 9 different companies.
Cool. Sounds like my last 2 years.
Yeah. And so that fourth summer, we finished up the summer, I had a decent amount saved up. Wife and I, we bought a house. And so after that summer, like I really wanted to try the e-commerce game.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried the drop shipping, tried porting over, products from Alibaba and AliExpress.
Okay. So like, because I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Like why didn't it work? Because I see all the YouTube videos like drop shipping's not dead. You can make tons of money, blah, blah, blah. I had a buddy try drop shipping. Didn't work for him either. So like when you're like, what are you doing when you're drop shipping? Because the whole thing is confusing to me.
So essentially like not most, but a lot of companies are quote unquote drop shipping companies, right? So for example, Apple, they get their products from China.
Right.
Like I know right now they're trying to bring it in-house manufacturing in the US, but many, many companies source their products from China.
Yep.
When you say drop shipping, all that means it's just a more surface level, like on the very, very, ground level of guys that just want to start a company that don't want to make a product, but they want to source something from China.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, the reason it didn't work and the reason it doesn't work for most guys is because they're just riding waves of this product's trending right now.
Right.
This marketing trend is trending right now.
Right.
And they're not building an actual brand.
Right.
And they're not building like a reputation online.
Yep.
And so what happens is customers will buy the product. They realize it's a piece of junk.
Yep.
And then in a lot of guys, they'll sell a crap ton of product and they'll end up having to refund, like, let's call it 30, 40% of all the revenue. And so if you have cost of material, if you have marketing spend in drop shipping and Facebook ads is, it's like 20, 30% of your margin in e-commerce.
Yep.
The really, really big guys can get it below 10%. But, nonetheless, like I realized like in order for me, long story short, like my ad account got banned. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier, but that's the thing with Facebook. The biggest difference between Facebook ads and Google ads, that's the reason why home service I think is so valuable, is because Google ads, like almost nobody's accounts will get shut down.
Right.
Where Facebook overnight could say, hey, we don't like what you're selling. We think you're a drop shipper.
Yep.
So we're going to shut your ad account down.
Yeah. That sucks. What funny thing about Google is like our GMB just got suspended. Yeah, we can still run ads. Like they're like, yeah, we'll still take your pay-per-click money even though your GMB is suspended. So they're like, you can't have a GMB, but we definitely still want to take your money. I'm like, that's cool. I mean, I'm happy that it's that way because at least my ads can keep going.
You're saying Dude Wash?
Yeah, with Dude Wash. Yeah.
Did they give you a reason?
Deceptive content was their reason, but then they don't give you why. I have a theory of why. So we started Dude Wash. I had a GMB that was, it's a service-based location because we didn't have an actual location. In hindsight, I would have probably rented this office that we're in right now sooner and made this my location when I started the GMB. Because we got that thing up to like 87 reviews and luckily I went and purchased another pressure washing business that was going out of business. And so I bought his Google business profile with 170 reviews and his website and phone number and customer list. But probably the most valuable part was that GMB. And so I had 2 GMBs, and they're out. His is on, like, we're kind of east side of town right now, and his location is west side of town.
Mm.
And so, and there's a lot of wealthy people that live over here on the east side of town. And that's why I got this office in the location that it's in. When I went to convert my service-based, non-location-based GMB, I went and added the address for here. Like 2 days later, it got suspended.
Hmm.
And it says deceptive content, and I don't know. There's a few local pressure washing guys who are they're giving us a bunch of crap because on our ads, we say we're the best.
Yeah.
And then we also say things in some of our ads like we dog on the other guys for using like destructive chemicals. And it's not really the chemicals that's the difference. It's how you use them.
Right.
But the customer doesn't know the difference. So we couldn't just say these guys use these chemicals in an irresponsible manner. So we just call them, bad chemicals.
Yeah.
Call Dude Wash. We'll use safe chemicals. It's really, we just use them in a safe manner. So we've got some guys that are like a little bit they seem a little pissed on the internet, commenting on our ads, all this stuff. It's pretty funny. And so I don't know if they reported some of our videos and content that says that stuff, and that's what's deceptive, or if it's the fact that we added an address and that's deceptive, and Google doesn't tell you why, which is strange. And so it's suspended. It's been suspended for like 5 weeks. Put in an appeal gets shut down, and then you literally have no way to get that thing back.
Yeah.
Which is super scary for any business owner. Like, how many calls do you get from your GMB just organically? Probably a few.
No, we get
a lot.
60 a week.
Yeah. So if your GMB got suspended,
we'd go under.
Call volume gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to get it back.
Yeah.
It's the lifeblood of the business.
Yes. So, and I don't know what happened with Google, if they made an algorithm change or they, introduced some new AI to kind of go through and do stuff. But I've read a bunch of articles that suspensions are up. Everybody's recommending that you just don't change anything except for the stuff that like add pictures, add updates, get reviews. Otherwise, don't touch it.
So I heard, sorry, go ahead.
Until Google figures out their thing. Yeah.
I heard Tommy Mello on a podcast. He said that if your GMB is not linked to an LSA,
yeah, it'll get canceled. Yep.
Then that could also be a reason why.
Yep.
Because LSA, they can vet your company, they can vet you.
Yep.
They can vet your license.
Yep.
So I don't. Do you guys have LSA?
Yeah, we linked it, and so we were good there. And they suspended our GMB, and they continued to let our LSA run.
That's so weird.
And our pay-per-click ads that are tied to that GMB. And then like 3 weeks ago, our LSA got shut down. No way to appeal anything. Not even any. They don't even show you. Like, I can log into my LSA, and there's no notifications or anything that they're not running. We just get an email from Google that says, "Hey, your LSAs aren't running, and you can't fix it." I was like, okay. So I mean, if like my advice for any business owner would be like, get one GMB and get some reviews on it, and at least go. If you can go get some other location on the opposite side of town, the lame part is like, you work so hard on getting a GMB and getting the content on there and getting reviews and getting it to rank and then you don't want to get another one right in the same area because that would be silly. So you end up needing to get one like on the other side of town to help you rank over there. And then you have to put a ton of time and energy getting that one to rank just in case your other one gets shut down, which is crazy. So me personally, now I'm like, okay,
yeah,
we need 2 GMBs, and we need it'd be weird in a small city. Like I'm thinking about it in Fairbanks, Alaska. If I had 2 GMBs, people would be so confused. because it's so small.
Right. Right.
You literally couldn't
Yeah.
get the businesses far enough apart. It'd be ridiculous.
And that's why I always like it. My business mind of like where I've come to think about growing a company is the most valuable companies are ones that aren't beholden to Facebook and Google.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, I think, for example, you think of Amazon. Obviously,
Yeah.
Amazon's a totally different animal, but everybody knows Amazon's vans, right?
Yep.
And I use that example because everybody knows it. But if you take any large home service company in your area,
Yep.
like you know them based on their vans. It's usually number one, and then
Yeah.
billboards. You don't know them off their GMB
Nope.
reviews, or you don't know them off of their PPC ads strategy
Right.
or Facebook ads. So like for me, like that's where I just hired Dan Antonelli with KickCharge.
Oh, nice. That'll be
Paid a
good.
fortune.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that really like creating some type of brand will help us just get away in case something like that ever happens. Or with
Yeah.
AI, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But
So like in Phoenix, everybody probably knows Gettle.
everybody,
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't know them from their GMB.
No.
They know them from the billboards, the radio ads, the TV ads. Maybe they see them on social media, but I doubt it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and even like you look at like Elon Musk's companies. I'm reading his autobiography right now.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible story. But he doesn't advertise any of his companies.
Right.
There's just all through word of mouth and through their reputation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're door knocking, you're going to college, trying to figure out what to do. Is that where we left off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I basically, the drop shipping it didn't work. Not that it doesn't work. It just didn't work for me.
Right.
So I closed all the stores down. Ad account was banned. So I went on, and actually at this time I had a buddy of mine who ended up marrying my wife's sister. So he's my brother-in-law, and we ended up going in halves on like a dumpster. We tried a dumpster removal company where we would rent out, those really big, what do you call it? The dumpsters, the hydraulic dumpsters.
Yeah.
And so we tried that. We tried advertising for it. Didn't work.
Yep.
Failed. Sold the dumpster. After that, we tried starting a solar company.
Yep.
So we tried knocking doors, selling solar.
Makes sense. Yep.
Didn't work. And now that it didn't work, I could go into every company and their story, but
Yeah.
we'd be here for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But the solar company, it's just a kind of a flawed model. You rely on tax credits to basically make the sale. If
Right.
the customer doesn't get the tax credit, then the price of their solar system goes up by 30%.
Right.
So didn't want to be involved in that business model.
Right.
And at that time, this is when I had started listening to Ryan Pineda,
Mm-hmm.
the real estate guy.
Yeah.
And read his book, Flip Your Future.
Yeah.
Listened to all of his podcasts, and I was like, I'm going to try real estate.
Yep.
So me and my buddy, we had some money saved up and through reading his book, we got a hold of a wholesaler. We found our first property to buy. This was right before the COVID bubble
Yep.
kind of hit, and everything kind of just went way up.
Yep.
So that first house we bought it at the perfect time, but at the
Yep.
same time, the worst time, because the same thing, it got me hooked.
Yep.
Because we bought this house 60 days later. Me and him are in there painting the walls. We're doing the landscaping. We're putting in light fixtures. We're
Yeah.
trying to make this thing, lipstick on a pig.
Yep.
And, we put roughly like $60,000 into it, which is a pretty modest renovation, at least in Phoenix.
Did you get hard money for that?
And so we got a hard money loan.
Yeah.
So we had you have to have the down payment for the hard money, and then you have to have additional funds to do the renovation.
Yep.
So you have to have cash capital and it's usually 20% down payment.
Yep.
So if you're buying a $300,000 house, that's $60,000 down payment.
Yep.
So we had to have $60,000 plus an additional $60 to do the reno.
Yep.
And those are roughly the numbers. And so 60 days later, we basically closed the house, sold it, and pretty much both walked away with like $60K.
Nice.
We made good money.
Yeah.
Right. We were like, we're doing real estate.
Yeah, let's do it again.
we're gonna be, we're gonna be freaking rich from flipping houses. And so basically from that point to a year later, we had raised money, friends and family. We raised like a couple $100,000. We got a good relationship with a hard money lender. We got good contacts with contractors. Like we had the system in place to go all in on this thing. That's like, for me, like if we're doing it, like we're going all in.
Yep.
We're going to scale it. Like there's no mom and pops.
Yeah.
Like for me and my buddy, we're just like, we're going all in. So that for that first year, we flipped about 7 houses in 1 year.
Nice.
Didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were kind of figuring it out as we were going.
Yep.
And so, we made really good money on some houses. We lost some money on some houses. We learned the game of real estate. And long story short, the last house that we were working on, this was 2021 is when we bought the house. In 2022.
Yep.
Because we owned this house for about a year.
Yeah.
And we bought it. And when we bought it, this was going to be a big renovation because we wanted it to be a luxury flip. And so long story short, new floors, new AC unit, new paint, cabinets, countertops, appliances. We were like $130K deep in the renovation, not including the down payment, which we had OPM other people's money.
Yep.
So we were like balls deep in this thing.
Yep.
And so like about a month out from when we were going to list it, this is when interest rates started to go up.
Yep.
And so we were about 30 days away from listing it. Interest rates went from basically, 2% within the time period that we had listed it to like 7-8%. And so the second the interest rates went up, demand dropped.
Yep.
All of our showings that we were originally getting on previous houses was cut into like a fraction of what we were getting.
Yep.
So on top of it, every single month with hard money, you have a $5,000 monthly payment.
Yeah.
Not principal, just interest.
Yeah.
So we had this house for 12 months. So we're an additional $60K deep in just monthly payments.
Dang, man.
This is like this is like probably second most stressful period of my business career.
Yep.
And so, we were like, me and him are in the house, like we're trying to get feedback from showings to figure out what do the customers want? Why aren't they buying it? So we were in there literally like changing the landscaping because generally we would hire contractors, but we were running out of money.
Yeah.
So we were like, we just got to go in with our bare hands and do everything we can to get this house sold.
Yep.
We literally went in and we would stay there till midnight, 1 a.m, like repainting the whole interior of the house.
Dang.
Because we made it modern and it's like an older community. And so we try to make it more anyways, like it was an experience. And so 12 months into the house, owning the house, we finally sold the thing. And keep in mind, from month like 6 to 12, we had to decrease the price every month.
Yeah, I bet.
So on top of all of the money we were into this thing, we were on top of it lowering the price.
Yep.
And so we're like running the numbers, like it was bad. And so by that month 12, when we had the buyer, me and him are sitting there like, we're just like, we had the offer there. They were lowballing what we had it listed for. And we basically just had to fire sell it. And so after we sold the house, we were $130,000 in the hole.
Oh boy. Dude, that's crazy.
Between the two of us, like in the hole.
Whoever bought that house is probably loving life right now. It's probably worth double or triple what they bought it for.
They better. I'm knocking on their door.
Can I have this thing back, please?
Yeah. It's a learning experience.
Yeah. How'd that feel being 130? I've never been 130 grand in the hole. I mean, I have when I bought my first house, but that's about the only time I've ever been in the hole.
Yeah, it's stressful.
I bet.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah.
And actually this isn't even like the low point. After we sold the house, me and him basically parted ways. Still close with him, love him to death.
So did you take half the debt and he took half the debt?
Exactly.
How does that work? Yeah.
Yep. And so we basically parted ways, still close friends with him. And in the back of all this, my dad, who he owns he has his own financial firm.
Yeah.
He's a financial advisor. And so in the background of this, one of my dad's buddies came to him and said, "Hey, I want to start a pest control company. Will you invest in just getting me off the ground, getting me a truck, and getting my salary paid for like a couple months?" And so my dad invested in this company. He calls me after the house is done because he knows that I was done with real estate. And he's like, "Hey, can you come help this guy grow the company? Can you come help sell? Because I know you know how to sell and market."
Yeah.
And so I went into the company. It actually, like in the last few months of us selling this last house, I was trying to help the company grow, the pest control company.
Gotcha.
Triton Pest Control is the name of the company.
Oh, cool.
And so basically about 6 months to a year later, the guy that approached my dad to start this company, he basically, I don't want to say quit, but just wouldn't show up for work.
Nice.
And so it basically what was his baby now became my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Never did I ever want to start a pest control company. It's like the last thing I probably ever expected to do.
Yeah.
Even that I was in e-commerce and real estate and doing all these things that
Yep.
you see on social media. And so this thing basically became my baby, and I was learning the game of home service.
Yep.
And this is when I started seeing Tommy Mello.
Yeah.
And I started reading his books.
Yep.
I have listened to every single podcast to this day.
Same here.
I did a shop tour with him a few months ago.
Oh, cool.
I'm doing another one, actually. You know Cameron Bodden?
Yeah.
He's the guy with Green Mango.
Yep.
I'm in his group, and we're going to go do another
cool.
tour there. But anyways, so Tommy, really, I learned everything I know, minus you, before I met you.
We're this close to getting Tommy Mello to come speak to our Wealthy Plumber group.
Oh, heck
We're
yeah.
literally just trying to get the dates down.
Heck yeah.
And it keeps changing. They're like, "Hey, how about this date?" And it's like 2 months in advance. And I'm like, "Yeah, that works fine. Literally tell me anytime."
Yeah.
And I'll just schedule it in. And then they'll be like, "Okay." And then 2 weeks later, they'll be like, "Hey, we got to change dates." I'm like, "That's fine."
Yeah.
as long as we can get it going, but we'll see.
Anybody in the group who doesn't know who he is,
Yep.
has to be on that call.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah,
has to be on
good.
that call. But anyways, so this is before I came in contact with you, and this is where I kind of learned the basics: call booking rate, conversion rate, average ticket.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took what he taught in his books and basically his methods, and we took the pest control company from basically zero to we did about $500,000 the last year.
Cool.
We had three employees. We had 2 techs in the field, and we had 1 lady that was estimating, because we were doing termites as well. So we did termites and pest control.
Yeah. Where's the money at in pest control? Because I see, we don't have pest control in Alaska. So that was I moved down here and they're like, "Oh, you got to get a bug guy." And I'm like, "Oh, I got to get a bug guy, I guess."
Yeah.
So they come over, and like my guy, he sprays every quarter, and then he checks the termite things that go in the ground maybe once a year.
Yeah, it depends what your goal is.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to sell the company, reoccurring maintenance, you're going to get the highest multiple.
Yeah.
Because in reoccurring maintenance, customers don't cancel their pest control guy.
No.
You have it and you kind of just set it and forget it.
Yep.
The guy shows up, sprays, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And the margins are extremely high. We're talking if you take, obviously we want to include labor. If we're just including cost of the pesticide, the material, less than 7%.
Yeah.
To spray a house.
Yeah.
And so that's for that reason, in Phoenix, and it's probably the case in Florida, I would guess.
Yep.
It's saturated in the sense that there's a lot of companies.
There's a lot of big companies too. Like first company I hired was Aero Services to spray my first house when I first moved here. And the sales guy they sent over was phenomenal. I was like, man, this guy's so rad. So I looked up what the company did the year prior in revenue. It was 400 million.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, there's some good money in pest control.
Good money.
Yeah.
But with that, it's the same with plumbing and HVAC.
Yeah.
It's all VC backed. And in Phoenix, within a 5-mile radius, we had 4 companies that did over $100 million.
Yeah.
Within a 5-mile radius of our GMB.
Yeah.
So for us trying to bid against those guys,
yep,
it was like I couldn't grow the thing.
Yeah.
Like we were basically breaking even. Because
Yep.
for me, like it was all in or nothing. Like
Yep.
we were gonna blast this thing with marketing and grow it and sell it within 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Or it wasn't worth it.
Yep.
So from that point, I was trying to actually let me backtrack. In this process of that year that I kind of took over the pest control company,
Mm-hmm.
I had those 3 people that worked for me, the 2 field technicians and our lady estimator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call her a salesman because,
Yeah.
but
Saleswoman.
saleswoman.
There you go.
And so within 2 weeks, all 3 of them quit on me.
Oh, nice.
So this is like low point. My entire business career was I had about, let's call it 400 customers that needed spraying. I was $130,000 in debt
Yeah.
still at this point.
Yep.
And I was in the back of this warehouse, like the dungiest warehouse where these truckers would come in every day. And I was in the back of this warehouse when I found out the last guy quit on me. And I was just like ready to throw in the towel. Like I was done.
Yep.
So I was like contemplating, do I call my wife and say, hey, we're just going to file bankruptcy and I'm going to go get a job.
Yeah.
Like at that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do
Yep.
moving forward. So it was like a big inflection point in my life.
Yeah.
And like when your first guy that quits on you,
Dude, you're thinking all sorts of crazy stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, well, I got to do stuff different. And from my experience, my guys have quit for multiple reasons. Sometimes it's my lack of leadership. Sometimes it's me actually doing what I need to do and they don't like it. And I need to be okay with them leaving. But I know exactly what you like. You're second guessing everything
Yep.
when your first guy quits. It's like, oh my gosh, my company's going to go to hell. And yeah, I thought that my company was doing good. We're making money. A guy quits and I'm like, we're doing it all wrong. We got to change it all up. And luckily my wife is like, chill out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be
Yep.
okay. You're doing okay. I'm like, okay. Phew. Yeah. Anyway, last guy quits. You're freaking out.
Last guy quits. And that's where like, you go through all this in years of business experience, you kind of get some perspective on, did I have the right guy or was it me?
Yeah.
Is it my culture?
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, looking back, like it was both.
Yeah.
More me.
Yep.
Like I faulted myself
Yeah.
for not setting up the systems and setting up the culture in a way like I wouldn't have wanted to work for myself
Yeah.
at that time.
That's a wonderful question to
And
ask yourself.
And I was like, would I want to be doing what they're doing
Mhm.
and making what they're making?
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely not.
Yep.
And so I had to change what we were doing, how we paid, the structure of performance pay.
Yeah.
And that's when I really went all in with Tommy's performance pay model.
Yeah.
And you obviously do the same thing. And this is basically when I kind of took a marketing approach and I was like, what service can I offer? Can I put $1 in and get $10 to $15 back?
Mm-hmm.
So we tested landscaping. I was testing everything.
When you say testing, what do you mean?
So meaning I would run pay-per-click ads.
Yeah.
For people for, hey, you need your grass cut. You need, whatever it was, the different services that I wanted to offer.
Yep.
We would just market PPC for and see where was the arbitrage.
Yeah.
And that's when I had started doing PPC for pools.
Yeah.
And it was like landscaping, you put $1 in and you get $5 back.
Yep.
Just because the average ticket's so low.
Yep.
And it's so commoditized.
Yep.
Same with pest control. Pest control, it's high margin, but cost to acquire a customer, you're competing with all these different companies.
Yep.
And this is something that I see a lot of the plumbers in the group that they deal with.
Yeah.
Right. Is
lifetime value is good, but CAC is high.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so
It's getting worse.
Yeah, 100%. And so what I did was I just said, hey, let's just blast like 10 different services that we can offer.
Yep.
One of them was pool service. And so we put $1 in and we got like 15 back.
Nice.
And so when I say we got 15 back, we put $1 in and let's just call it, on average, like to acquire a pest control customer was $500.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for a really low ticket product or service.
Yeah.
Where with pools, I could put in $100 and get 1 to 2 customers that were willing to pay $2,000 to $4,000
right
for a repair on their equipment.
Yep.
And so I kind of saw where, I kind of saw the stars aligning. And so when I started kind of advertising the pool business, we basically turned it from Trident Pest to Trident Home Services.
Yep.
To figure out which avenue we were going to go down. And long story short, like we went all in on pools.
So how old are you at this point?
So we went all in on pools the beginning of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So end of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That would have put me at 26.
How old are you now?
I'm
30?
sorry. I would have been 25. I'm 27 now.
27. So you're a young guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've had all the experience of 130,000 in debt, flipping homes, pest control business, drop shipping business. And now you're like, props to you for being able to go to pay-per-click and being like, hey, I'm going to test out and see which one has the best arbitrage. That's pretty smart. Not too many 20-some-year-olds are doing that stuff.
I'm not that smart.
Well, I mean,
I get what you're saying.
I would say the
saying.
same thing to you, that I'm not that smart. And there was a lot of luck involved in
Right.
getting in the right situation at the right time. And I don't know, the stars aligning and all that stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, I think it takes balls to do that. So kudos.
Yeah. And for me, it's kind of like all my friends and family that know me. Like I'm like the guy where like we go to Lake Powell. And if there's a 50-foot cliff, like I don't think about it. Like
right.
I'm just going.
Yeah. Yep.
Like whatever it is, like I don't know what it is, but sometimes my parents would be like, "Oh, you're kind of you're going a little too much. Like you're doing too much."
That's so my friends and family would say that about me, and I never saw it. I always just thought they were the weird ones and I was the normal one. And thinking back on it, like I'm very much the same way. Hop on a skateboard or a snowboard, and like on a snowboard, I'm hauling ass down the mountain, hitting the biggest jump there, and eating crap, a bunch of times. And
snowboard up in Alaska.
Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, you're crazy. Or even just starting my business and I'm buying vans and I'm all in and I'm spending every last penny I have on it. And they're like, you're crazy. And that's very much how I've been. I'm getting less and less like that as I get older.
Really?
Dude, so 2 years ago, I broke my leg because I hopped on a one wheel and I was like, oh, this is rad, going 30 miles an hour down the road. And then that thing just spit me off of it. It busted my leg. That was probably the worst injury I've ever had. Had to go in and rebuild my whole hip basically. But yeah, I'm getting less like that. Anyway, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm all in or nothing.
And I think that's a common trend with guys because everybody says like, overnight success.
Yeah.
By no means am I a success yet in my mind.
Yeah. Same here.
But when people see like, oh, hey, he's got a company that's doing this revenue, it's like the reason that most guys succeed is because they're able to just put the blinders on.
Yeah.
And they just go.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people overthink things.
Yep.
And it's easy to overthink things, especially today. You're given so much information.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you take the most successful business guys in the world. You think Elon Musk knew anything about rockets when he first started, right? He hired guys, he went all in, he learned it.
Yep.
And so you study those guys and you learn that it's just about doing. Like you just got to do it.
Yep. I agree.
So, and do it and understand that, and when I say like the point we're at right now, like I was telling Jared yesterday, we got our P&L for last month. We did over $400,000 in revenue last month.
Yeah, it's dope.
And so from basically, $130,000 in debt to where we were at, yesterday, in that P&L was kind of like, and I know we had a couple conversations of, you teaching us what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
But going from that point to where I saw that P&L yesterday, I was on the flight over and I was like, man, this is insane. And we got guys and processes running, and it's an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, you take that success, right? It's a small success because I want to grow a lot bigger. It took basically 10 companies failed.
Yeah.
To get to that. And a lot of heartache.
Yep.
Not headache, heartache.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I like Dave Ramsey's thing that he says. He's basically says that his success is he stands on a mountain of failures, that he's been successful at like 2 or 3 things, but he's had to be unsuccessful at hundreds of things to get to that point and learn your lessons. And same here, it took me 3 or 4 tries to finally make money at a plumbing business. And then even then we had a bunch of failures in that. Like we did a bunch of dumb crap and had to learn lessons the hard way, cost you money and heartache, and then keep pushing forward. And then even after that, I still made mistakes. Even in other businesses, I thought, I got this business going, I could go do this business. And then I started and I'm like, oh, this is a whole different world, right?
Every business has its problems.
Every business has its problems, and the grass is always greener on the other side.
Always.
Always. Every time. You're looking at it and you're like, man, I should go over there and do this. And really, you should probably just stick with what you got and fix it.
100%.
Yeah. Because you're already like way into it. Yeah.
And I always think, like, in my mind, I'm like, what do I have to lose? Right.
Yep. I do the same thing.
Like, what's the worst possible scenario?
Yep.
And will I survive?
Yeah.
Like, I'll be fine. If I go under, if I got to file bankruptcy, if I got to take my 2 kids and, move back in with my parents, with my wife, like, things will be fine. Like, we'll get back to it. Great. Now I don't have to deal with this crappy business that I started, and I can start some new company that, whatever. But like, there's always going to be fear. And so for me, like, it was always just about how can I, just go all in. Yeah. And what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. I like to use that fear to motivate myself.
Yeah.
That's really what does it. I'll put myself in situations where I'm freaking out. I was just talking to my wife this morning because we sold our business and then we reinvested all the money into, like, I got a beach house that rents out now. I started Dude Wash. I've got a bunch of money into that. Millions of dollars goes really fast.
Yeah.
And so now I'm at the point where I've got these businesses and I'm like, telling her this morning, like, I asked her, should we sell our beach house? And she's like, you're an idiot. I'm like, I'm freaking out. We got to get some cash flow going. And she's like, just use that to push into it and make some cash flow. You'll make it happen.
100%.
I'm like, yeah, I probably will, but it's I do that purposefully. And then I start freaking out and I got to remind myself, you're here in the situation because you put yourself there. So let's climb out of it and make some stuff happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I was actually going to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah, man.
Just like, what made you decide to move down to Pensacola specifically? Obviously, I'm sure like it's beautiful here. You got a beautiful beach, whatnot. But was it family or was there a specific reason?
No, my life is a bunch of happy accidents. I'm a terrible planner. I'm really bad at thinking ahead. I live very much in the moment. I've had to really try really hard to think ahead and think more long term. That's probably been the thing that is stunted my growth the most, is that my inability to think bigger picture. And I read a book by the guy who owns Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago. And I was like, dude, this, he's nuts, in my opinion. He's thinking into eternity. So he's a big Christian dude, and he He designed his business from the beginning with the idea that it would never go away and that it wasn't his business, it was God's business. And I think it's a little strange, but regardless of that, when you read his book, you see the decisions that he made and how his ability to think that far in advance was actually the thing that made him the most successful. Like, he's the most profitable craft retail store in the world, right?
Their margins are insane.
They're nuts. They're absolutely crazy. The amount of revenue they do, they're doing billions and billions of dollars, multi-billions of dollars of revenue out of that company with the highest margins of any company of its kind. And it's solely based on his ability to look so stinking far ahead and make a decision today, even though it doesn't seem like the best decision today. He'll make the decision today for 100 years out, 200 years out, as far as he can possibly think ahead, right? And those decisions ended up making him successful. But he stuck with it. He started that company in the 50s. So he's been at it for a long time, right? It is crazy. So 2 things from that book was like, okay, consistency over a long period of time is what gets you there. And then being able to think ahead and do things today for the future. I'm really bad at that. So I'm trying to get better. The whole reason I moved down here, I was in Montana. So my wife, we grew up in Alaska, me and my wife, got married real young, had kids real young, had kids before we got married, in high school, had kids.
Oh, wow.
Got married out of high school. Right out of high school, we got married. And she, we'd lived there our whole lives. It's dark there. It's cold there. My wife has had eczema her whole life, and it's dry in Alaska. And so she always wanted to move somewhere humid and warm. And we spent a couple months out of the winter in Phoenix, actually, mountain biking around.
Yeah, winter Phoenix is
it's
incredible.
Awesome. It's the best. I absolutely
Nowhere
love
beats
it.
other than California.
Yeah, I love California too. I've spent some time in like Lake Tahoe area.
Yeah,
Reno. I love it over there.
You have to come down. We'll take you to Sedona for mountain biking.
I've been to Sedona.
Have you mountain biked in Sedona?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's incredible.
Loved it.
It's incredible.
And it's so cool because then you can go to Flagstaff and snowboard. So you can literally like mountain bike and snowboard and then swim in the swimming pool in the same day.
Yep.
Super cool.
You're talking my language.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool area. But so we were on the ski lift with somebody. We were thinking about moving to Phoenix, and I was on the ski lift in Flagstaff, and I was sitting next to somebody from Phoenix. I was, hey, where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm from Phoenix. I'm like, how hot does it get in the summer? Because I'm from Alaska, right?
Yeah.
The hottest day we see is like 80 degrees.
Holy cow.
And you don't feel the heat from the sun like you do in the lower 48.
Right.
There's sun there, but you don't feel it, right? And I was in Sedona and it was 90 degrees and I was trying to mountain bike and I felt like I was going to die.
What month was that?
Dude, it was probably like October, November, maybe.
It was 90 in Sedona.
Maybe September.
Flagstaff.
Sedona. I was in Sedona.
Wow.
I remember.
That must have been a hot year.
I remember it was like 90 degrees. We were mountain biking, didn't have any water. So we went to a CVS.
Yeah.
And I bought a bunch of electrolytes because I literally could not stay hydrated. My body was not used to the dry heat of Sedona. And I was just, every cup of water I had electrolytes in it. And my pee was like orange. I literally could not drink enough water.
Yeah.
It was like Alaska boy coming to Sedona. It did not work.
Yeah, I'm used to it, man. It's 100. Yeah. We grew up 115 degrees and we would be wakeboarding in the canals. With like an ATV towing us.
Yeah, the canals are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
funny.
I
thought so we were going to move to Phoenix. I talked to the guy on the lift and he was like, dude, it's so hot. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can deal with that.
Yeah.
So we thought about moving to Vegas for a little bit because it's a little bit cooler and they have a pretty good mountain bike scene there as well. Lots of trails around Vegas. Ended up going to Vegas later. I'm really glad I didn't move to Vegas. Because it's kind of a poopy
It
city.
is, yeah. It's dirty.
Yeah. And so we were actually in Montana. We decided to move. We went to Montana. My parents have a house in Polson, Montana. I was plumbing it for them. They were building a house. And I got all done plumbing, and Joel, who normally sits in the podcast, his wife, Ayla, she said, I always wanted to move to Pensacola. And so we put an offer in on a house in Pensacola, and we left Montana. We were driving south. We were going to go to Vegas, Phoenix, or Pensacola.
Wow.
And we got a call from the realtor saying we got the house. So we drove to Pensacola, and here we are.
Yeah, if you couldn't do 90 degrees, there's no way you would have survived the
Oh,
summer.
dude, I got here and it was like 98 and humid, and we were staying on the beach, and I literally showed up like I'm dressed right now in my cotton t-shirt, cotton pants, cotton boxers, cotton socks, canvas shoes,
Yeah.
and we're hat,
Yep.
and we're walking on the beach to go get something to eat. And dude, I am a mess, like head to toe. I'm just soaking wet, full of sweat. And I'm looking around at the other people there, and they're not sweating a single drop. And I'm like,
You become acclimated to it.
you do.
Humidity, I can't do humidity.
Oh, yeah.
So funny. I can do dry heat.
So
It's just
it
what you
was-
grew up in.
Yeah. It was really bad the first, the little bit that we were here first, because I was going back from here. And so I'd be here for a couple months, and then I'd fly back to Alaska for a week or two. So I go from extreme humidity to extreme dryness,
Yeah.
just back and forth. And my body didn't know what to do. Now that I've kind of been here with zero traveling for a good solid, I guess it's been about 8 months. I'm getting the humidity. I don't really feel it anymore, which is dope. But yeah, when we first got here, I was like, I made a big mistake.
No, it's a cool town.
It is a cool town.
It's really cool.
It's different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to, I know it's in some podcasts with Joel,
Yeah.
you've talked about you grew up religious and kind of to the Hobby Lobby
Yeah. Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Are you religious at all?
Yeah.
Would you say you are?
Yeah. So I believe that we were created by the God that you read about in the Bible. I
Mhm.
believe Jesus existed. I believe that he died for our sins. I kind of grew up in that to an extent, but I'd never really paid attention because I could have cared less at that point. And then kind of came back to it, once I got out of the house and got married, and I was a turd and I was not a very good human being, and kind of leaned back into that and got back into it. And I don't necessarily maybe identify is the wrong word, but I'm going to use it anyways. I don't identify with a particular religion.
Sure.
As far as like, you have Pentecostal, you've got Baptist, you've got all this other stuff. My faith is very experience based. And so I take the Bible for what it says as it reads. I think there's some things in there that we can't understand. And we can argue till we die. And then hopefully when we die, we'll understand them. And I think it's cool to like get into that and understand it more and argue that. Those things I have a hard time taking a stance on. To me, if you read the Bible, it's very like plain. There's a concept, a story. And then as I go through life as an adult, there's things that I learned that are like true, right? That I believe that are true because we were created. And those are the things that I really hold on to. They're like the pillars that shape how I operate in the world. And that's my religion for the most, like in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, because I think a lot of guys, like one of my big whys is why that I go as hard as I go is because at the end of the day, like if you have faith, in my opinion, like it takes a lot of the stress out.
It does. Yeah. Because we're on this earth and it's like, what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I had listened to a couple of your podcasts with Joel.
Yeah.
And I think you guys both had grew up pretty religious.
Yeah, we did. Joel's kind of gone into this whole, he's like Eastern Orthodox. I'll pull him out of it one of these days. But he's
got something.
He's lost and confused right now, I'd say. I'll pull him out of it.
Hopefully he's not listening to this.
No, I hope he does, because we argue about it all the time. He loves to argue about it.
Yeah.
I give Joel the most crap out of any human being I've ever given crap to. And I love him to death
That
because,
just means you're a good friend.
well, and he's a great friend, right? He takes my crap. So
Yeah.
he's a great dude.
Yeah, you got to be able to tell your good friends
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you about, religion or whatever you want to call it. For me, it's like I read some books early on I used to never read. And so I read a book called The Maker's Diet. And the whole book was based on the fact that we were created and God created us to eat a certain way. And I went from eating like crap to eating like whole foods is really all it was.
Yeah.
And it changed my wife's life. Like she had terrible eczema, all that went away. Helped my kids out a lot. They had eczema. And I was like, okay, this is true. Like I believe we are designed to eat a certain way. And if we eat that way, we will be healthy.
100%.
Okay, true. So I was like, okay, that's true. And then I read a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And in that book, he talks about that if we really believed that we were created and we believe in God and we're here to do God's work, then we would, and the economy operates on money, like the world we live in today. If we want to do anything, the one resource that we need is money. And so if we really believe that, we as believers should be trying to go get as much money as possible. And that kind of changed my view of money, because when I grew up in church, it was money is evil.
Right.
And so I heard that and I was like, man, that makes total sense. If I wanted, and it matched my experience in the world. It's like anytime I went and made money, other people, like it helped other people make more money, and it helped me provide more opportunities for other people. And so that kind of became like my life goal at that point in time. I was like, I'm going to go make money and provide opportunities and help lift everybody up as we go. And then I read a book, who, it's a farming book. Gosh, Joel Salatin. You ever hear him?
I know who Joel. I haven't read his book though.
Yeah. So I've read a few of his books, but the one book is called The Marvelous Pigness of Pigs. Weirdest book title and cover you'll ever see. But in that book, he talked about, it's basically a book from the perspective of a farmer. It's really a book about God, in my opinion. And that if we learn these things that we believe are true, we should live them out. So then I have, these things that I've learned over the years, one of them being that I believe that we should be making money so that we can help everybody out. It's like, okay, I really need to start living this out, like 100%. And those convictions help me, they give me the way, I would say. They give me like, oh, okay, this is where I'm going. This is why I'm going there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anything. I would have no reason to do anything to push forward.
Right.
I would be okay being a beach bum.
Yeah.
But the only reason I'm not okay being a beach bum is because I think we were put on this earth to do better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you look at Genesis, we're created in His image.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at God's creation, He takes joy in His creation.
Oh yeah.
The world, us.
Yep.
And so I think since we're created in His image, I feel most content when I'm building something.
Oh yeah.
And so I think there's a lot behind that. And so I think you take guys that sell their company and they're sitting on a beach, you hear all the stories, you're not happy.
No.
Right? It's like you lose sense of purpose.
Yeah, totally.
And so for me, it's like if I'm not building something, then it's, that's where I find joy, right?
Exactly.
It's where a lot of the fulfillment comes from in life, is building a family, building a business. Yep. But no, I was just curious your take on it. So I grew up LDS. I'm still practicing LDS. But yeah, I always like to hear other people's faith and their spirituality.
I can relate to the building of things. There's, when I was a kid, I was building bike ramps, tree forts. I took my bikes apart, combined bikes. I was taking my alarm clocks apart. Like I learned how to solder. I mean, I was like, was always building something. It was my happy place. And then, even I kind of got a little bit artistic where I could draw and, make halfway decent paintings and that kind of thing. And it was all about building. And when I found business and I learned you can build a business, I was like, dude, it was like the coolest thing ever. I love, that's my main thing that I like doing. I love building things. I don't like maintaining them. I don't like, if there's something that needs to be implemented,
Yeah.
I'm a horrible implementer.
So think of this. So God created everything, right? He created the world. He created us.
Mm-hmm.
But he usually sends messengers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He usually has people that do things for him,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense.
Yep.
And so it's funny how, like, business owners, in a sense, we create the business,
Yeah.
we create the system,
Yeah.
we have people implement that business.
Yeah.
So I think the analogies, the metaphors, it's just so cool to me when talking business and God and spirituality. It gets me going.
To me, it's all one thing.
Yeah.
I can't live in these separate worlds. It all has to mesh together. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense in my head. Like everything I do is through the lens of the fact that I believe we were created. Down to, like when I ran in minimalistic shoes because I believed we were created to run,
Yeah.
right? And so I didn't need this shoe to be able to go run, that kind of stuff. Like every decision goes through that filter in my brain.
Yeah.
And to not do that would be strange.
And I didn't even bring this up either, but that period of time where I had those 3 guys quit on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was, in debt, whatever. It was like 2 to 3 days that I was wanting to make a decision.
Yeah.
And during that time, I read the book of Job
Mm-hmm.
and read his story.
Yeah.
And basically the story goes, God and Satan were kind of battling between if Job was faithful because God blessed him or not.
Yep.
And so God was like, okay, like, let's take everything from him.
Yeah.
Took
Hopefully
his-
that doesn't happen to me.
But basically he goes from, being, losing his family, his house, like he loses everything. He was very successful too.
Yeah.
He loses everything and he was still faithful.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yep.
And so that story alone, like, really gave me like direction.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, read it. It's an awesome one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Totally. 100%.
So,
Any more questions?
oh man.
Okay. So then how did you get from, because I got questions. So, because we left off, you went from pest control and then testing ads, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go all in on pool. Like, how did you get from saying, okay, I'm going to do pools to last month you did 400K in revenue?
Yeah. So when we started marketing for pools, this is when we really started to learn your model.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started, it was mostly repair work. So we'd go out, customers' pump's not running. We would diagnose it, say, hey, here's your option.
So
Singular.
Were you going out and doing repairs?
I was estimating the job, and I actually paid a guy to come in and teach us how to learn. I had at the time 2 pest control guys that I was teaching to do pools at the same time.
Gotcha.
And so I paid a guy to come in, teach us how to do pools. And it took about 3 months to learn it. So for about 3 months, I was out doing the repairs and everything,
Yep.
teaching my guys how to do it.
Yep.
And then transitioned into just estimating jobs. So going out selling, because that was my strength.
Because you had all the sales door knocking
Exactly.
experience. Yeah.
So I can go out, sell the customer, have my guys come in on the backside and do the job.
Yeah. So a lot of guys hate sales. What would you say to that? Because that's been like the thing that probably gave you the biggest leg up. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So people say that sales is bad,
Mm-hmm.
but if anybody's married or if you have a girlfriend, you
Yep.
had to sell yourself
Yep.
to that person.
Heck yeah.
Everybody sells. It's just a matter of to what extent are you selling?
Yep.
Are you selling a product? Are you selling yourself? You sell yourself in a job interview? Are you trying to get an investment?
Yep.
You have to sell yourself in an investment.
Yep.
If you're trying to sell the company, you have to sell yourself why should this person buy your company?
Yeah.
Sales is just basically a form of communication that gets you what you want.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
Yep.
So when people say they don't like sales, it just means that either one, they don't like being uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and two, they're probably just pretty lazy.
Yeah.
Because it takes effort. It's not easy
yeah.
to knock 500 doors in a day.
Yep.
And have 495 of them slam the door in your face.
So then taking that into the home service world, you know, we've got, at least in the plumbing and HVAC world, there's kind of the owners and companies who are on board with, you know, we need to have a sales process and trained people who can sell to the customer, because if we can't, you know, you want to go do some plumbing for somebody, you have to sell it to the customer first before you can do any plumbing.
Right.
And they kind of understand that. But then there's this whole other world where they would say that sales, that type of sales, is ruining plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and they're anti-sales because they relate it to like car salesmen, right? What would you say to that?
So it comes down to what's your intention with the customer?
Right.
Like, is your intention just to make a buck?
Mm-hmm.
Or is your intention to help the customer?
Right.
Because if your belief system is that this Band-Aid is going to fix the problem and give the customer the best solution, then that's what you're going to sell the customer.
Right.
But if your belief system is, no, if I get them a brand new, whatever it is that you sell,
Yep.
if I give them it brand new, provide the most value in the service I'm providing, then you're going to be able to feel a lot better about selling.
Right.
Right. And so most guys, it's not their sales experience, not their sales skills, not their sales tactic.
Yep.
It's their core belief on what am I giving the customer, and is what I'm giving them going to put them in the best situation possible.
Yeah. And they're looking at it solely from a money situation.
Correct.
Not from a you know, long-term solution. They're typically viewing it through their own pocketbook of, would I pay for this?
Correct.
Obviously you wouldn't, because you're the one fixing the problem,
Right.
right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love this analogy. So if you take, let's say, a car salesman, because everybody demonizes car salesmen.
Yeah.
You take a car salesman and you have two different customers. You have one customer who the car salesman sells them a beat up old car. Let's say this is your grandma or your mom.
Yep.
Sells them a beat up, 2005 Honda Civic with 250,000 miles on it.
Yep.
But they can pay cash for it, and they can save $20,000 from the other customer who's going to get, let's say, a brand new Lexus.
Yep.
And is not going to have any problems, has 0 miles on it, and it has an affordable monthly payment behind it, with something you feel comfortable your mom getting in.
Yep.
It's like, okay, which customer is getting gypped?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that analogy.
Did she need the new Lexus? No, not really.
But you want your mom driving around in a nice car.
You do. Yep.
You want her in a nice car, and you want to know that the thing's not going to break down on her. She's going to call you.
Yeah.
And, you're going to be dealing with it.
Right. So I always ask, like, I had a training that I would do with my guys. I would call it the yes or no training. We did a lot of these actually, but I made these signs that they were basically a square piece of foam that I glued some paper to. One side had a big X, a red X with no. The other side had a big green check mark with yes. And the rules were, when we played this game, they couldn't answer any question except for yes or no with their sign. And I would go run them through scenarios. And my favorite one was to ask them if it's okay to sell somebody something they don't need. And they would all hold up their sign. No way.
Yeah.
It's like the devil. So then I'd say, okay. I'd say, hey, I think I did it with Nick last time. I'd be like, hey, Nick, I knew he had an iPhone. I'm like, what kind of phone you got? And he pulls it out of his pocket. It's an iPhone. So then I run them through a scenario. Does Nick need that iPhone? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay. Did Nick get ripped off because he bought that iPhone? Somebody sold it to him. Did he get ripped off buying that iPhone? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so is it wrong to sell somebody something they don't need? And they're all like, nope, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. As long as they want it, we can sell it to them, right? And then the other half of it is like, I would go through and tell them a story about two friends who went into Verizon and got new phones and would just say, hey man, they go in and Verizon guy goes, hey, I just need a phone or what do you need? And the guy goes, I just need a phone that calls and texts. And so he just sells him a flip phone that calls and texts. Here you go, man. And he walks out and he's happy. He got what he asked for, right? Next guy goes in and he's like, what do you need? And I'm like, I need a phone that calls and texts. And he's like, let me show you all the phones we got. And he walks him over to the iPhone and shows him all the cool stuff it can do. And he's like, man, I really want that. And he pays $1,400 for a new phone and walks out. And the two guys get together and they're comparing phones. And the dude who got the flip phone, he's looking at the iPhone and he's like, dude, they didn't even offer me that.
Yep.
And I asked him who got ripped off in that scenario? Like, who got the better service? The guy who got shown all the options or the guy who just got the flip phone? And it's always the guy who got shown all the options and was able to make a choice based on his budget and what he wanted. I'm like, that's what we need to do for our customers. To me, that's what sales is. It's like, hey, here's the options. Here's what all of them entail. Here's how much each one costs. Here's my honest opinion on which one you should choose based on our conversation. Which one do you want to go with? That's what I would always do.
Well, and then you got to, what most guys forget is ask for the close.
Oh, yeah.
Like be confident in that final.
Heck yeah.
And that final assumption.
Yeah.
You give them the options. They called you to their house.
Yeah.
They need the service or else they wouldn't have called you.
Yep.
You're not knocking doors. Like you're not cold selling anybody. These are people that they called you for a reason.
Yep.
And so be confident in that and say, hey, which option do you want to go with? Let me think about it. It's too expensive. Okay, you called me out here. Is there a reason? Like, where do we need to get one of these options done?
Yeah.
And just be confident in saying that.
Yep.
Most guys, they get afraid of being confrontational or having an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always say success is always on the other side of a difficult conversation.
Yeah. Like if you just walk away from somebody called you out to their home, they have you out there because they have a problem, and you just walk away, and then now that customer is left with, crap, now I got to find somebody else to call, somebody else to book a job with.
Yep.
I got to get another guy out to my house. He's got to diagnose the problem again. I got to take more time off work. That sucks for the homeowner. I wouldn't want to do that to my homeowners. I would want to make sure we find a solution that works for them within their budget where we can still make margin and then we can move forward.
Well, and it's funny because basically what we're talking about is capitalism at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because, for example, it's like, okay, customer doesn't need it, but does anybody need like you said, an iPhone?
Yeah.
Does anybody need a laptop? Do we need HVAC?
Yeah.
Like, do we need AC? Like,
Yeah.
Of course we do. We want it.
Yep.
Right. And so I think people are like, I don't want to give them what they don't want, but to your exact point, they have all these things that they don't necessarily need, but they want.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. So you got sales experience, you're selling, you got guys going to fix the stuff, starting out with repairs. And then what?
We were running into a bottleneck because we were growing it, we were growing it not very profitably. And that's because our conversion rate wasn't what it needed to be. I know we had this conversation quite a few times.
What was it? Out of curiosity.
It was 35%.
Yeah. Super low.
Not good.
No, that's not good at all.
And so we needed to be at least at 50%. And so, basically, and I think your model, you guys, like all your technicians sold.
Yep.
And so we were really trying to make that work.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't working for us.
Yep. The reason that worked for us is because we just happened to get all guys that could close relatively well.
Right.
We didn't really have any exceptional closers. We had, I think, over the course of my business, we closed, before we had any processes or training, we probably closed at a 50%, everybody across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Once we got processes and things like that in, we jumped probably to a 60%. And honestly, it could have been better.
That's crazy.
But everybody sold roughly around a 55 to a 65%. We were probably 60% across the board. So the selling tech model worked well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like our biggest bottleneck was just conversion rate.
Yeah.
So we had a good average ticket. We had a good call booking rate. We were getting the leads. Our guys were getting sent out to appointments.
Yep.
But we just weren't churning. We weren't kicking the revenue that we needed to.
Yep.
So that's when, that's when I had gotten in contact with you.
Yeah.
I heard, I'm only going to say it because I heard, what's the first guy you did the podcast with?
Travis. Yeah.
Travis said it, but it was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
It was worth every single penny.
Yeah.
And, we did that call, and then over a couple other calls, we changed the model. You dialed in our price book. We got everything kind of operationalized the way we needed to.
Yeah.
And so within a few months, we basically went from, 35% conversion rate to now we only had, out of our 10 guys, only 3 of them sell.
Yeah.
So those 3 guys are my best sales guys. Just took who had the best conversion rate, and those are our estimators.
Yeah.
So now they do all of our estimates, and our conversion went from 35 to 55%.
Yeah.
Which close to doubled our revenue.
Yeah.
Because they're also getting higher average tickets.
That's cool.
So yeah, just literally changing the model, same amount of guys, same amount of leads.
Yep.
We doubled almost the revenue of the business.
Do those guys that are good at closing, do they enjoy doing that?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them's been begging me to do it.
Oh, nice.
He's like, I don't want to do any work. I just want to sell.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to have a guy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other 2 guys, they're fully on board, because
Cool.
one of them's a little older, whatever. And so he doesn't have to kill himself.
Yeah.
doing
And
it.
so, I mean, you've got the experience in selling. So, because you were selling a bunch of work for the guys at one point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what was your close rate?
It was like 65%,
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah.
65%. But the hard part with that too is I had to sell the work for everybody.
Yeah. There's only one of you.
That was in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so
That's the hard part with the sales install model in the beginning, is you literally just don't have enough resources to be able to
No.
do that. Either the business owner has to go sell all the work, but then he doesn't have time to grow the business,
yep.
or they have to get one guy and he has to sell for at least probably 3 more guys.
Right. It's 2 to 3 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't have that many guys, you have to run the sales tech model.
Right.
And that's why I always tell everybody, like, your first 2 to 3 hires, they need to be good hires.
100%.
They got to be able to sell and install work, or you're going to be the one selling.
So my biggest, my one nugget that anybody can take from this that
Yep.
I've learned is don't hire until you have interviewed 4 to 5 people.
Yeah.
Just interview 4 to 5 people. You may find 3 killers.
Yeah.
Hire all 3 of them.
Yeah.
But the odds are it's going to take you 4 to 5 interviews.
Yep.
Just run a budget with Indeed, write a killer ad, have OpenAI run it for you.
Yep.
Or write it for you, and put a budget on it, and just get guys in the door.
Yep.
And interview. You should be interviewing a couple guys a week, even if you don't have to hire.
Yep.
Because
I
you
agree.
all in just that piece of information.
Yep.
For me, changed everything hiring wise.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it was like you have a pulse, okay, you're hired.
Yeah. So in Alaska, that's pretty much how we ran it.
Yeah.
You got a pulse, you're hired. Come on in. We'll see if you work out. And main reason was because, we ran ads all day long, and it was the all day long ads created a trickle
Mhm.
of people applying, but it was like one every couple months is what
Oh,
we
wow.
would get. Yeah.
What were you spending per month?
We were spending, a few $1,000s a month.
Oh, wow.
We probably, when I left, we were probably spending, $1,000 a month just on Facebook advertising that we're hiring, Indeed campaigns going, had some Google retargeting, like geofencing ads going to all the other shops.
Yeah.
It was not an easy place to hire, but it's a small town. It's very difficult to get a plumbing license. And there's just not very many plumbers. And it's part of why we had to be so dang expensive was the licensing. Whereas down here, you don't have to be licensed to be a plumber. You just have to work for a licensed plumber. So we're hiring for Dude Wash right now. And I posted a post on my personal Facebook page and I shared it in 2 like Pensacola Facebook groups. And I got 100 applicants like in like 2 days. And I was like,
Wow.
oh crap, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And so I made it a little bit more, like I made the process a little harder. I automated a system and go high level.
Yeah.
They basically got to fill out an application, and then I'm going to send them a second questionnaire, and I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to make them send a video to me of themselves, and then I'll send them a calendar link to schedule an interview, because I've done probably 20 interviews, and out of those 20 interviews, I mean, I started getting discouraged because the first 12 were like pretty bad. I was like, dang, these guys are terrible.
Yeah.
I was thinking I got to pay more or something. I got to figure
Yeah.
this out. But then I got some really, really good ones in there. And I was like, oh, this is cool.
100%.
Yeah. And I still got another 20 interviews to do.
That's crazy.
I'm like, man, people are not going to be the problem in this business.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
That goes back to every business has its problems.
Yep. It's the problem with pressure washing is it still costs a little bit to acquire a customer. I believe lifetime value is probably there, but they use you less often.
Right.
And
What,
so
once a year? Twice a year?
some customers, yeah, people who really care. But I'm guessing typical customer is every they're going to skip 2 years between services. So they're going to use you. They're not going to use you the next year, not the next year, and then they're going to use you that next year.
Got it.
So you have to figure out a way to retain them for that period of time so that they actually remember you, right? We go to every house, we walk around the house and we ask them, have you ever used a professional power washing company before? And a lot of the customers are like, yeah. And so we say, so can I get your opinion on something? And they're like, yeah. How come you called us out here instead of calling the last guy out? And it's one of 2 things. It's, I can't remember who I called out because everybody's brands are terrible. Or
Just a chuck in a truck.
yeah. And it's literally like everybody has the roof of a house with a pressure washing wand and then their name underneath it.
Yeah.
Like every single pressure washing company, or it's some sort of water droplet or something. And everybody's blue and white, every single company. And they all have names like Advanced Pressure Washing,
They've all got
Expert Pressure Washing.
the jerseys.
They've all got the blue jerseys with the water droplets on it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
It's all the same.
nobody stands out. So it's either that or they say, oh, I called them and they're no longer in business. Because in the pressure washing world, you get guys who see these videos on the internet of, man, you can start a pressure washing business and make $250 a day. You're going to be rich. And they're like, yeah. And they go buy these, $10,000 skids, or they go buy a junky pressure washer from Home Depot. And then they realize that they don't make any money selling driveways for $99 or house washes for $200, and they go out of business the next year. Yeah. So we have that to deal with, like customer expectations price wise. Plumbing, easier to sell, I would say.
For sure.
There's
Pressure washing is more commoditized.
It's more commoditized, and then it's not as big of a like need right now, right? Your hot water heater is broken, or your water heater, as some guys would say. Your water heater is broken. You want it fixed. Your house is dirty and you want it pressure washed. It's a nice thing. But if it's out of your price range, you're more likely to say, I'll just wait.
Do you plan on starting a plumbing company, Pensacola?
I have one I have the licensing, the paperwork, the brand.
Ready to roll.
It's ready to roll. I just, I want to stick with one thing.
Sure.
And to me, the pressure washing industry is cool. It's a cool industry. Like it's at the very beginning of the industry in my mind. You've got a bunch of businesses doing it poorly. And for somebody to come in and do it well is cool. There's no labor problem.
Right.
You can train anybody to pressure wash.
Yeah.
It's not super difficult.
Yeah.
It has its challenges, but I'm going to stick with it.
Definitely.
I think. I don't think I'll start a plumbing business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done changing water heaters.
I mean, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing, like what I'm selling at the end of the day.
Right.
the business is the same.
Yeah.
It's the business. Like we still do all the exact same stuff, right? We have
Processes are the same.
the systems are the same. The processes are the same. The pricing is the same. The marketing is slightly different, but for the most part, it's the same. And to me, it's like we're just building something, and it's cool.
Have you ever thought about starting a home service investment capital firm?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
No, I probably should at some point in time because I'll need cash at some point in time.
We can invest in a pool business in Pensacola.
Dude, I bet you could do well here.
Probably.
Yeah.
The guy that I hitched a ride from the airport
Yeah.
had a pool and he was showing me his stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Was he like, hey, how do you fix this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, my lights aren't working. Can you try to fix them?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you need new lights.
I talked to my pool guy and they got like 4 guys. They charge $40 a week to come out and clean your pool once a week. And man, they could charge me more, honestly, and I would keep them. And I keep them even though they charge me less and do a crappy job. So if they just did a better job and charged me more, I would still keep them. It's almost like the bug guy. Like I don't see them when they come. They just come to my house and take care of my pool and leave. It's on recurring payments.
Yep.
And that seems cool. When something breaks,
Yep.
like I'm sure it snowed here like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, got real cold for like 4 days. I bet a bunch of people's stuff broke.
Yep.
And
there is, I'm not kidding you, there's endless work with pools.
yeah.
And it's not something like anybody can just jump into. Anybody
Yeah.
can jump into cleaning.
Yep.
But you have to know what you're doing to plumb a pump, diagnose a heater,
Yep.
diagnose automation.
Yep.
And so that's another thing too, is when you're trying to figure out your niche,
Yep.
figure out something that's high barrier to entry. Like, for example, you guys
Yep.
in Alaska, that's the reason you guys probably killed it, because it's so hard to get a license and find the guys.
Yep.
Higher barrier to entry means
There was a big problem. We solved it.
Yep.
We made tons of money.
100%.
Yep. I think there's that problem in pressure washing right now. I think there's a whole group of people that want a better service and better quality, and there's nobody that offers it. And so to me, that we're going to solve that problem. I think it'll work. The more I do it, the more I believe in it.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I'm like, is this going to work? Should I be doing this or should I be doing something else? The more I do it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, this is working.
Yeah.
Like we've got an 80% close rate,
Oh, that's awesome.
$1,400 average ticket.
It's great.
It'll work. People are willing to pay it.
And it's high margin.
So it is high margin, depending on how you run it.
Yeah.
I will easily hit at scale 30% net. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, not too bad.
It's incredible.
Yep. Not too shabby.
No.
Can't complain.
No.
So you got a pool business. You're doing well for yourself. What is the goal with it? Like, what do you want it to become?
That's the question mark.
The big question mark. Yeah.
That's the question. At the least, I will sell a percentage of it to somebody. Just to get a win under my belt. Tommy Mello says, don't start a company unless your plan is to sell it within 5 years.
Yeah.
He says that.
Yeah.
And I think where he's coming from, and I think where a lot of guys are coming from, is get that first win under your belt. And even if you don't sell it, you have an asset that's pumping cash flow.
Yep.
It doesn't necessarily need you. Like you could have sold Prospector or not sold it.
Yeah.
And you would have made a killing.
It was on the fence. Like the day before closing, it was on the fence. And honestly, building a business that way, I could have cared less if it closed or not. Right?
Exactly.
If it closed, I got a bunch of money. If it didn't, I still got a bunch of money.
Yep.
I kept making money. And coming into a sale with that viewpoint, I got exactly what I wanted out of that sucker. I didn't cave on anything.
Yeah.
They would try to get me to do stuff and I'd say, nope.
Yep.
And
you didn't need them.
And they'd come back and be like, this is going to kill the deal. I'd be like,
sorry.
Cool. Call me when you're ready. And they'd say, okay. And then the next day they'd be like, okay, I think we found a way. I'm
That's
like,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're
know
just
you
trying to nickel and dime you.
Yeah. Yep.
I may
Yeah.
have to consult you if I ever go to sell. Hey, what are these guys messing with me or what?
Yeah. I mean, you talked to Patrick Lang, right?
Yeah, I talked
Yeah.
to Patrick.
Dude, he was like, if anybody's thinking about selling their business, Patrick Lang with Business Modification Group, that dude was awesome. He was so cool.
Yeah, we had conflicting opinions
Yeah.
on the business
Mhm.
because I said basically we're running the plumbing model for the repair side,
Mhm.
and then the pool cleaning is just an added recurring revenue.
Yep.
And so he's like, well, all the value is going to be in the cleaning. And I'm like, no, the value is in the repair because we're building a membership and a community
Mhm.
within the pool industry in Phoenix.
Mhm.
So yeah, he's like, anyways, there's different buyers for pool companies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we disagreed on it. Obviously he has a lot more experience than I do. So he's probably
Yeah.
right
Who knows?
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I just see like your business and I see a lot of these big companies and how they operate. And we're just trying to do the same thing in the pool industry.
Yeah.
With repairs and whatnot.
So do most like pool cleaning businesses do repairs and stuff as well?
They do, but they're not trying to make a killing on the repair.
Right.
They're cost plus.
Right.
So if let's say they're replacing a pump, the pump costs them $1,000. They're charging $1,200 to replace the pump.
Gotcha.
And they're banking all their money on the reoccurring revenue.
Right.
Where with us, we're like, no, the money's in the high ticket. The margin is there.
So you're kind of flipping that on its head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. To where we're repair first so we can take that cash
Yep.
and then reinvest it to acquire more customers.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, we have 3 office staff where they just call in. They're all VAs actually out of Mexico.
Cool.
And so we have them all call on the back end to sell the recurring service. And so it's like, hey, take it or leave the price. We don't need the recurring service.
Yep.
Because a lot of that pricing is just a race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, hey, I have a guy that can do it for this. And we're like, sorry,
Yeah.
this is our price to stay profitable. And so, yeah, that exactly what you're saying. We just flipped it on its head.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, and if you do if you show you're a good company to deal with on the repair, and like if you came and repaired my pool, because I don't think my guys would, and then you called me for a reoccurring service, I'd probably be like, yeah, let's do that. I'll cancel my last guy because he sucks.
Yep.
Plus you can repair it.
And there's a lot of guys that they'll just clean the pool and they don't know how to repair it.
Right.
They just have a pole and they have a pole net and a couple chlorine tabs.
Yeah.
And they're just cleaning pools.
Yep.
And so we'll steal a lot of that business.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
Makes sense.
So it's a great business model. I don't know how long I'll be in it. My passion is really marketing, sales. Maybe I do that for the company. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I've seen guys go from home service to marketing. I've seen guys go from marketing to home service too.
I say like I'm a hybrid between you and your brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your marketing brother.
Yeah. Yep. That's funny.
Yeah.
So most of your calls where do you get the majority of your call volume from, you think?
It's pretty 50-50 between Google and GMB and PPC.
Okay. And on your GMB, is it like it's Triton Pools?
Triton Pools, we're closing in on like 600 reviews. We're at 4.9. So yeah, I'd say most of them come from the GMB.
And is it kind of tailored toward pool repair?
Oh, that's a good point to make. So yeah, it's definitely catered towards repairs. So that's because that's the customer we're trying to attract.
Yeah.
Say, hey, your pump's not working, whatever it is.
Yep.
Call us.
Yep.
And then because the last thing we want is to prioritize the cleaning, or we're not making that much money up front.
Yeah. Then you can't afford to buy a new customer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hormozy talks about it in his book, his infinite scaling model.
Yep.
Acquire customers, make enough on them so you can acquire more customers.
Yep.
So you have to have that mindset, especially if you don't have that mindset, then you got to have a lot of capital invested
Yep.
in the business
Yep.
to take a loss for a certain period of time until you acquire enough customers to generate cash flow.
Yep. That's always
So-
been the hard part about the recurring revenue models.
Exactly.
Like, obviously, you know, like in pest control,
Yep.
pool cleaning. Yeah. They sound cool. And then, like, even just the efficiency in the beginning when you don't have well-defined routes and you're going here to there to
Yep.
here to there, like, good night.
All the way.
Yeah.
All the way.
Well, cool, man. Appreciate you coming on. I don't know what to tell anybody. You got nothing to sell them, do you?
No, I don't. You know, I want to build something first.
Uh-huh.
You know, build something that I can tell people, hey, this is what I did.
Yep.
Before I sell something that, you know, you just get all these guys that have never done it before.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I want to be able to do it first. This is what I did, and then eventually that's the goal.
Well, cool.
But
thanks for coming on, boss.
yeah, man, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
You too.